So let's wait for 5 minutes more.
Sure.
2,
Sure.
3 minutes.
Yes, Ramir.
ये दो भेद है क्रिया अकर्मिक क्रिया सकर्मिक क्रिया।
I think we can begin now.
Yes, I think the host can start now. There's so many have joined. Almost 155 attendees are there, and there are others joined on YouTube. So Ashwini, please start. Ashwini and Nupur.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Pooja, you can start, bache.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
bache.
you're audible.
यत्र नार्यस्तु पूजयन्ते रमते तत्र देवताः यत्रैतास्तु न पूजयन्ते सर्वास्तत्र फलाक्रिय. Greetings to one and all present here. I, Pooja, on behalf of Women's Studies and Development Center, University of Delhi, warmly welcome you all to the second talk of the online lecture series under WSTC Forum. Today's theme is sexual harassment and legal rights. Sexual harassment is a pressing issue that affects individuals in various spheres of life. It is important to remember that the fight against sexual harassment is a collective responsibility, and knowledge is the most potent weapon we possess. Therefore, it becomes important Before starting today's session, I would like everyone to join us in seeking blessings from the goddess through Saraswati Vandana. Goddess Saraswati is a symbol of wisdom, knowledge, learning, and empowerment. Let us hope that the grace of Ma Saraswati will illuminate our minds like the radiant
कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रामृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतं शङ्करं प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा
event, I would request the director of WSTC, Professor Payal Mago, to say a few words. Over to you.
नमस्ते आप सभी लोगों को वेरी गुड इवनिंग and this is the second talk series of WSDC in this particular session, and I'm amazed to see that there's so many participants who have shown interest and joined with us. And today's topic is actually a very interesting also topic, as well as it's the need of the hour to learn about the legal rights which a woman or any person faces at the time of when she joins workplace and she faces a sexual harassment, then what exactly are the legal rights which are associated with this? And Women's Studies and Development Center, it's a constituent center of University of Delhi, and continuously it is involved in women empowerment, working on different women issues, research on women's studies and gender issues. So all these things we are pertaining to do, and these web series which we have planned, this is very, very important that we must know about the pressing issues associated with the gender studies. So I welcome Mr. Dibyanshu Pandey, who is an advocate in Supreme Court, and he will be speaking on sexual harassment and legal rights. So on behalf of University of Delhi and Women's Studies Development Center, I heartily welcome you and hope we will get a deeper insight into the legal rights associated with the women if she faces sexual harassment at workplace. So once again, welcome you, and you can proceed further.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And it's a pleasure being with such a large audience, and the number of people who are there on this webinar today reflects how pressing the issue is. Before I go ahead and talk about the legal rights, it is essential for me to make sure that the audience here understands what exactly sexual harassment means. During my practice, in the course of my practice, I have come across people who have been suffering from sexual harassment, yet they did not know that it is sexual harassment that they are being subjected to. So it makes it very, very important that we discuss about the elements that constitute sexual harassment. And apart from that, we also need to understand what are the indicators. Are we supposed to wait until sexual harassment takes place before we take action? Legal rights comes into the picture after the sexual harassment has taken place. My concern and our concern must be how to prevent it. And our law certainly provides for prevention of sexual harassment. Going further, sexual harassment as defined in the law is any action that discriminates. Basically, sexual harassment comes from discrimination, that is gender discrimination. Once we understand what gender discrimination is, we can certainly talk about the violence against women or any gender, not specifically, I would talk about women in this context. Gender discrimination, when we talk about, gender discrimination is something that makes an individual be treated differently only because of the gender. And when we say gender, again, it becomes very interesting that gender generally we perceive as men and women. That is not the case. Gender is sex and gender are two completely different things that we always mention interchangeably. So sexual harassment is basically violence against women. And this form of violence originates from gender discrimination. Sexual harassment has the tone of sexual nature as per the law. But as soon as any kind of discrimination takes place at the workplace, that is an indicator that sexual harassment may be in the pipeline. How do we identify that? That's the question that I generally come across. There are certain elements that we need to identify. For example, if a woman is being given some kind of privilege, that may be an indicator of impending sexual harassment. Another example would be if somebody's work is being over monitored, that could be an indicator of sexual harassment in pipeline. Likewise, we can have numerous examples. Before we proceed, let us understand what workplace is on the one hand. When an individual in the course of employment moves from one place to the other, entire chain of the workplace and the work becomes a workplace. This is a very broad meaning. So generally what happens, if we take an example of a person who is a marketing professional or a sales professional, that woman leaves the workplace, her office, and travels to another place for a meeting. The entire place she visits for the purpose of her business becomes a workplace. So when we are going to a workplace, we need to understand that every place that is related to your employment or your work, if I'm a student, my workplace becomes the university that I am studying in, the college that I go to. If I am pursuing an internship, the workplace extends from your college to that particular office where you are undergoing the internship. So this is the fundamental that we need to understand before we go ahead and understand our rights. Now, sexual harassment on one hand and the workplace on the other, these are two aspects that are generally disputed when we suffer something. First of all, an individual fails to understand generally, unless and until the action is so explicit that it clearly appears to be sexual in nature. It is very difficult to understand whether it comes under the ambit of sexual harassment. Our law very clearly states, very clearly defines that any action having sexual tone to that action amounts to sexual harassment. But the umbrella is much larger. When a person is being harassed and you consider it as mental harassment, that may be a time, that may be a point where you need to understand, evaluate, and reassess what you are undergoing. A person may assume that there is tremendous pressure at workplace. You need to pay much attention to whether that pressure is really a pressure or it is an artificial pressure that has been created. It becomes very important for you to open your eyes and see what you are feeling, what you are suffering is actually a harassment or it is general work that you are pursuing. I come across people where they say that I am being harassed. But if you ask them, is it sexual harassment? They say, no, there's nothing sexual in nature. It is just a harassment. But what happens is that every act that makes a woman vulnerable at workplace is sexual harassment indeed. We cannot just segregate that it is a harassment and we will wait until something big happens and then we say, oh, this is a sexual harassment that has taken place. So the biggest indicator that I would suggest is that anything that makes a woman vulnerable at workplace in any manner whatsoever, that is the point where you need to stop, you need to talk to your friend, you need to discuss with your family and understand whether it is artificial in nature or it is natural. And most of the time, mark my words, most of the time when you find yourself vulnerable, it is artificial in nature. It is not natural. Because when you go to a workplace, natural environments cannot make you vulnerable. It has to be enabling. The workplace has to encourage you to participate in the work. So when I mention this, please understand that there are two types of sexual harassment that generally takes place. One is that a woman may be offered some position or some benefit in lieu of sexual favor. That is clearly understandable that it is sexual harassment. But on the other hand, the second type of sexual harassment is that the work environment that you're working in is hostile. So hostile work environment is another kind of sexual harassment. Now, when I call it hostile, how would you figure out? That's the question I'm sure my friends here will ask me. How would you figure out that whether the environment is hostile? The simplest answer to this is, in the morning when you wake up and you don't feel like going to the work or a place where you are working or interning or whatsoever, or even if you don't want to go to your college or university, you don't feel like going to that place, then that is an alarming situation. And that is the point that you should understand that there is something amiss. If an environment is not hostile, this situation wouldn't arise where you would evade going to a workplace which gives you bread and butter, or with the place that gives you education. If it is deterring you, it is clearly that the work environment is hostile. Now, individuals' work performance at the workplace, if it is not at par, that does not mean that the work environment is hostile. That is something you must make a note of. If you are not performing at your work, you cannot call that the work environment is hostile. But if the case is that due to the work environment being hostile, if you are unable to perform at work, that's a different situation altogether. So workplace, kinds of sexual harassment, and indicators that show that there is something amiss. These things are very, very important for every woman who are working, every individual. On the other hand, now when we say, like, if there is a harassment that has taken place or there is something brewing and you understand that there is something amiss, what do? Our law gives you ample rights to take actions. But you can take action only when you understand what is going around you. You need to evaluate your work environment. I'm repeating this may sound redundant, but that is the key to addressing the sexual harassment at workplace. If you are vulnerable at the workplace, that is the time you need to talk to somebody, be it your mother, be it your father, be it your friend. You need to discuss that. If you find that you are being forced not to perform, thereby meaning that if situation is such wherein you cannot work, where you cannot perform, where you cannot give your best, then there is something amiss. You need to talk. Once you figure out that there is a problem lying somewhere, that is the time you can take action. Otherwise, you will not be in a position to take any action. You will not be in a position to exercise any of your rights. In order to exercise your rights, you need to understand where to exercise it. Despite knowing all your rights, you may not be in a position to exercise them, only because you have not identified that you are in trouble. And when I say trouble, it does not mean that it has to be immediate threat to your life and liberty. Something that is leading to threat to your dignity is also a problem, and it has to be ended right then. As far as law is concerned, it is very, very clear that our constitution provides with ample provisions for us to exercise our rights. Article 21, everybody knows, it is right to life, and all the laws that protect women, they stem out from Article 21 of our constitution. Before I go to what are the legal remedies that you can avail, I would like to share that there are some fundamentals. Those fundamentals need to be understood very well, so that you can understand. You may not know the provisions. If I walk you through all the legal provisions of the Act or other provisions that are given in IPC, Indian Penal Code, that may not be that fruitful to you at this point in time. But yes, the fundamentals that I would share with you would certainly go a long way in helping you. You need to understand that whenever there is an immediate threat to your life and liberty, you must reach out to the law enforcing agencies. Forget whether the call that you're going to make on 112 is actually meaningful or not. You may be in a dilemma. You may find yourself in a dilemma that I don't know whether I should call or not. But if this thought comes in your mind, I think that is a time you must call. Because taking action is always better than inaction in the cases where your dignity, your life is under threat. We need to understand that our Constitution, Article 21, gives us all the liberty to exercise all our rights. We don't even need law, specific law for specific thing when you find yourself in problem. We don't need any law. All we need is to take action. And automatically you will see that all the laws and everything, people who are legally sound in this area of work, they will be standing by you. Therefore, what we do when you are subjected to any kind of harassment, especially I'm talking about sexual harassment, you identify that there are elements. My work is being over monitored. I am not being given work, or maybe all the responsibilities are being withdrawn. I will share a real story with you that a lady working in University of Delhi, one of the colleges, she did not know what is going around her. And one fine day she realized that all her work have been withdrawn. She was given a responsibility to sit in a room all alone and with nothing, no work with her. She did not understand why is this going on. She was assured that she will be getting some work very soon. And all she had to do all day was to go to the office, sit in a 10 by 10 room where there was a chair and a table. She sat there all day and she came back. This went on for 7 days, 10 days, 2 weeks passed away like this. And then she realizes that nobody is interested in giving work to her. Now, my question to you all is, does this amount to sexual harassment? The answer is yes. She did not know what is going around, who is troubling her, but yes, certainly she was cornered within that institution. She was made to sit in a room where there was no work at all, and she was supposed to be on time and leave on time. Can you imagine the plight of a woman who goes to work, sits in an empty room, sits all day, nobody to talk, and then she comes back home? Now, when I say nobody to talk, this is also a harassment, because the lady did not know what gossip mongering was going on. She did not know what exactly was going around at her back. All she knew was that everybody in the institution is her enemy. This clearly amounts to sexual harassment. This is an example. Now, when I say people not talking to somebody being outcast, a woman being outcast at workplace, there has to be a reason behind it. It cannot be out of nowhere. And the reason, in order to find out the reason, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Sir, please go on. You are audible.
Am I audible? I think there's something wrong with the network.
We can hear you
Am I
properly,
audible?
sir.
Sir, you are audible.
Sure. So I'll just continue.
Yes, please continue.
So the case that I was discussing clearly amounts to sexual harassment. I'll just recapitulate what I said earlier, that a lady at workplace goes to her college. One fine I think there are some issues with my network, I believe. That's why I'm getting disconnected frequently. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Now
sir,
you
you
are
are.
audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
In
sir.
between, you are
Thank you.
not.
Thank you. All right. I'll just recapitulate what I was discussing so that everybody comes on the same page again. I was discussing about a woman, a lady who worked in an institution, and one fine day she goes to her workplace and then she realizes that there's some administrative decision that has been taken and all her responsibilities have been withdrawn. Now she waits for her responsibilities to be resumed, and in the meantime, she gets allotted a room with a table and a chair. Now she waits for 2 weeks. That's like, she will be allotted some responsibilities that she will be discharging. Realizes that nobody is interested in entrusting her with any kind of work. And all she does is she goes at work on time, sits on that chair and table whole day, and then she comes back in the evening. Now, this was a torture of highest order that anybody could have been subjected to at workplace. A person going to office, made to sit in a room, 10 by 10 room, with no work, no files, nothing, and then she has to come back home. And in the meantime, she realizes that nobody is interacting with her. And she fails to find a reason why nobody is interacting or why somebody is not responding to her conducively. Now, my question is whether this amounts to sexual harassment. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Work withdrawn. The person is made to sit in a room, thereby meaning that the person is cornered in the organization, and now nobody interacting with her because something is going around in the organization against her. Certainly, when I say that something is going around, it means that some kind of gossip, some kind of rumor about her. So when somebody is talking behind you, how would you come to know? That's the biggest question. That would reflect only by the conduct of the people around you. When people are not responding in a manner that they should respond in, certainly there is something not right. This also comes under ambit of sexual harassment, but you need to identify what could be the reason, who could be the person behind all this sufferings that you are subjected to. So likewise, we need to focus on identifying it. Once you have identified, we have internal committee as per the law instituted in every organization, every institution. And interestingly, every internal committee has the power of civil court. That is enormous power given to an in-house committee existing in every organization of this country. Can you imagine one civil court running in every organization of this country? This is a huge thing. Now, this internal committee is constituted as per the Act, which again stems out from international obligation that India had and Supreme Court judgments. This Act provides for remedies that women have at workplace. I think this is Zoom. This Act provides for provisions that are really meaningful. However, I would be critiquing it at the later stage so that we understand how we need to take care of ourselves where this Act doesn't suffice. The Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act was legislated in 2013. There are certain rules and every organization has this committee. Now, when we talk about how do we go ahead and complain, there are certain things that we need to keep in mind. All an individual needs to know is that there is an organization, there is a committee existing in the organization, and how to approach that committee. And once you approach that committee, how you need to conduct yourself. This law does not permit a woman to have a legal practitioner supporting her in the inquiry. There's a limitation also. The complaint must be registered within 90 days from the last incidence. And in certain cases, this time period may be extended in view of the circumstances that woman has been in. However, we need to keep in mind within 90 days, the complaint must be registered with the internal committee. Now, once the complaint goes to internal committee, there are procedures that committee adheres to as per the law. But I would be focusing on how a woman who has registered a complaint must take it forward. There would be opportunity given to the accused. There would be deposition. I mean, your statement would be taken. The complainant's statement has to be recorded. An opportunity has to be given to the accused also. And all this happens as per the principles of natural justice. So my request to everybody here would be to understand principles of natural justice, and that would be the foundation of all your fights in every aspect, no matter it is sexual harassment or it is a service matter or wherever you go. The fundamental is principles of natural justice, which includes the person cannot be a judge in his own case. If I tell you alternatively, if I rephrase my statement, whenever you find something that is not right, believe your gut feeling. If you think that if I'm making a statement and the individual on the other side or the committee member is interested in the case in one way or the other, you would find that this is not going right. For example, if you raise a complaint against an individual X and that X's relative is a member of the committee, do you think that would be right? Certainly no. The answer would be no. So in that case, it is violative of principles of natural justice. There is conflict of interest. Why would a wife punish her husband, for example? Certainly not. So in that case, we need to understand principles of natural justice. And there are certain elements when we talk about principles of natural justice, and that you can identify as per your common sense. If you see, I am not getting an opportunity of stating something before the committee, it is violation of principles of natural justice. If your witnesses are not called, it is violation. So we need to understand in a very holistic manner that law is something that is enabling, that supports you. Law has to be helpful. No law which deters you from raising a complaint, which deters you from seeking a relief, which deters you from going ahead and raising your grievance, or if a law supports an accused, such law cannot be a law as per the Constitution. So you need to understand this, sink this fact in, that whenever you find that there is something not right, you may not find a reason why it is not right, but even if you feel that something is not right, that is the time that you need to talk to somebody. You need to approach a person, a suitable person who can guide you through it. Because if you try to resolve the problem on your own, the problem is only going to get compounded. That is what my experience has been so far. Every individual I have fought for never considered that the harassment is sexual in nature. And once the individual accepted that there is some kind of harassment and I need to raise a complaint, there was a case. I mean, there was a very interesting case where I could clearly see that there's a sexual harassment involved. And when the complaint was being drafted, the lady said, no, please strike off sexual. This word you cannot mention in my complaint. And that was really shocking for me. I had to remove that word from the complaint. Actual in nature. Thereafter, it took quite a while for me to make her understand. I shared a lot of literature, I shared a lot of cases, and after a month, she understood that it was a sexual harassment that she was subjected to. But by then it was late. It was quite late. However, we managed to pull up that case. That's a story for some other day. But what I'm trying to convey is that
Sir, you are muted, I think. Your voice is not reaching.
am I not audible?
Yeah, you were not audible all this while, Mr. Pandey.
Now you are audible.
I
Now
think there's
you are.
something. All right. Okay. I think there's something wrong with the network. I'll just go back. Mr. Ray, could you just tell me up till what point was I audible?
When you said that you wanted to tell one story, up to that you were audible.
Like the girl asked you to.
I don't know, automatically it went on mute, I guess.
Yeah, when girl told you to remove the word sexual. Up to
Sexual,
now.
yes.
Yeah, up to now.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. All right. So, okay, I'll just repeat that. No problem. What happened is that there was a complaint, and the complaint was to be registered with the internal committee. Complaint was drafted. Now, when the complaint was drafted, the word sexual was included because clearly I could see that it's a sexual harassment that the girl is going through. However, that was not acceptable to the girl. That lady did not accept it. She said, no, no, please strike it off. I don't want this word to be included because it is not sexual in nature. I said, well, fine. Complaint was registered. But that was very shocking for me for the reason that I could clearly see that it is a sexual harassment, but the victim herself was not ready to accept it, despite being highly educated. I must mention this. She was pursuing PhD. Now, when this complaint was registered, I had to work on this to make her understand the reality, the fact that she was actually subjected to sexual harassment. I took a month, I shared literature with her, I shared cases with her, and I shared the law with her. And finally, when she realized it, she was furious that I did not even know that it is this what was going on with me. So what I'm trying to convey is identifying it is challenging. Not every sexual harassment is explicitly sexual in nature. It starts with gender discrimination, which you see that you are being discriminated in one way or the other. And later you realize that maybe you are not performing well. That dilemma comes. Thereafter, it turns out to be that you become vulnerable. And once an individual becomes vulnerable, that is the time sexual harassment is going to happen. Now, there are two kinds of sexual harassers. When we talk about sexual harassment, we must know that the kind of sexual harassers that we have around us. One is compulsive sexual harasser. When I say compulsive sexual harasser, it means that the person plans for a long time, maybe a year or two, is spent on planning, laying the trap so that the target is laid into that trap. Example would be making sure that an individual is given undue privilege at workplace. Initially, it sounds so good and it feels good for an individual that extra attention is being given. Maybe some work that is more valuable. Maybe a profile that anybody seeks to get into. These kind of things are given to the victim, to the probable victim, potential victim, so that the confidence is won. Now, what happens gradually? Career progression takes place. That is one thing. It for any individual, career progression would be so nice. I mean, it would be welcome. Now, undue career progression is also alarming because it is a trap where a compulsive sexual harasser plans it out completely. So it may happen that the sexual harassment takes place 2 years down the line or maybe 3 years down the line. I have come across incidences of such nature where rape has happened 3 years down the line and the story began 3 years back. I have come across such cases. Now, these are the people who come under the category of compulsive sexual harassers. On the other hand, there are opportunist sexual harassers who don't think much, but as soon as they get an opportunity, they try to harass a woman. So when we come across people, we say, nahi, ye to ye kar nahi sakta, वैसा आदमी ही नहीं है. Not necessary. It is not necessary at all. Nobody has got into the soul of that person. Maybe that person is the opportunist sexual harasser. It is possibility. It is a possibility. Now, coming back to the remedies that we have, every organization has an internal committee which has power of a civil court. Every organization, every company, every educational institution, every firm, everywhere, we have a committee. But that does not mean that a woman who feels harassed, who is harassed at workplace, needs to go to that committee only. Our Indian Penal Code has clearly made it a crime, and any person who is harassed sexually can pick up the phone and call up 112. Now, every call that is made to 112 is a recorded call, and every call is registered as a complaint. And this complaint cannot be hidden. This is on record. Nobody can conceal it. So if you pick up a phone and call up 112 and register a complaint, it is a registered complaint. So internal committee is one aspect. Calling up police is another. And both must run parallelly. If you are going to register a complaint before an internal committee, you must do that. At the same time, do not miss calling and reporting the incidents to the police. Now, there's something very interesting in our act. This act was made in 2013, whereas in 1997, Supreme Court under Vishaka guidelines made a law where every organization was under compulsion, under obligation to have a committee to address this menace. Now, when this law was made in 2013, it was assumed that this would address the problem, but it did not happen that way. It did not happen. Now, every complaint that goes to IC meets a very different fate altogether. I need not get into all that, but at the same time, there is one compelling problem in this law which we must understand. Under this law, complaint can be registered only by a person who is sexually harassed. If I'm a witness, if I see a lady being harassed at workplace in one way or the other, I don't have the right to go ahead and complain unless and until I have a written consent of that sufferer, that victim. So this is one problem that is existing currently in our law. But at the same time, please note that if you see anybody being sexually harassed, you must report it. Because if the work work environment is not safe for the other person, your colleague, it is not safe for you as well. Our Indian Penal Code gives you that right to inform competent authority, which is police. And of course, nobody can stop you from reporting it to your organization or your institution. So these are the fundamentals. If I recapitulate, we need to make sure that we understand principles of natural justice so that you can make a complaint, you can conduct your complaint. At the same time, you must know how you need to reach out to the competent authority and to whom. But all this can happen only when you go back and identify the problem, only when you understand the indicators, only when you are in a position to prevent all this. I would reiterate that we should not wait for sexual harassment to take place. We need to identify and prevent it right in the beginning. We need to nip it in the bud. If you have any questions, you may raise questions and I would be happy to answer it.
Hi, Dibyanshu. Am I audible?
Yes, or you're audible. Please.
Okay. I had a question related to POSH, which is the, sexual harassment at workplace. Is it okay if I ask that question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So, for example, the girl has the complainant has a video recording, and where so these guys took her in the room, interrogated her and cornered her very unprofessionally, snatched the phone from the hand and everything.
Okay.
She was released from work around 10 o'clock in the night. Her shift timing is from 10 to 7. This interrogation took place after 7 and she was released late 10 o'clock in the night. After that, she was a little intimidated. The girl did not join the company. She requested for work from home. But there was also a lady present in the meeting room and she told her that I need to, take this matter up. Please, give me a closure on their rude behavior. Now she gets terminated before that 1 week of, work from home, which she had requested. And she immediately writes an email to the CEO of the company that aisa mere saath raat mein hua in the office premises. I was terminated. But the CEO doesn't include the ICC team and the girl, and he includes the legal counselor of the company. So this girl reaches out to the State Women Commission. After 8-9 months, State Women Commission, sends a letter to the ICC team to submit the report. Now, if the ICC team is reaching out to you after 8 or 9 months for investigation, you think that the girl is, bound by legal law to be a part of that investigation?
Look, I would want you to rephrase your question because there are a few terms that popped up that came into your question. The first was interrogation.
Yes.
Right. Secondly, she raised a complaint, but legal team was involved in this matter.
Correct.
Right. So now my question is, why was she interrogated? That is one question that you must ask.
Yes.
Was there any allegation of any misconduct on her part? That is a question.
No, nothing at that sort of. It was just an interrogation because these guys felt that it was a performance issue, but then they had no documented proof, no
Absolutely.
email, nothing.
Yes. Now, when you talk about performance issue, this is the most common ground of sexual harassment at workplace.
Agreed.
What happens is this: if her services were terminated without any notice, she has a legal remedy, but that remedy lies in the court of law. Was it a private limited company?
Yes, it was.
Yes. So now this private limited company, whatever it did, it was supposed to be done as per law. Now, when during this course of discussion, I mentioned that whenever you see that, whenever you feel that there is something not right, you may not know the reason, but you would understand that this is not right. Now, you tell me, when you talk about being terminated without any notice, being held up till 10 at night, our law doesn't permit any company to force any woman employee beyond a certain time. Her work time was 7 o'clock. She was supposed to leave the workplace at 7 o'clock. That interrogation was not supposed to happen after 7 o'clock.
Agreed. Yes.
So that was violation of law.
Okay.
Secondly, what was the reason behind that? Sexual harassment could be a reason behind that, but that has to be identified. That has to be figured out. Besides that, if her services were terminated, she has a legal remedy. It cannot be terminated arbitrarily. Unreasonably, nothing can happen. Law does not permit it. So certainly I see that there was a problem. She was victimized. And what was the reason? What were the facts involved? That could be something that needs evaluation.
Okay. So if the ICC team calls her after 8-9 months, because clearly the CEO failed to report it to the ICC because she had
ICC needs to conclude the inquiry within 3 months. This is as per the law.
So after 8-9 months, if after 8-9 months the ICC is calling out of fear because the girl has taken the matter in the court, so do you think she should be a part of the ICC investigation?
Not necessary.
Not
necessary.
Okay.
If the matter has been taken to the court of law,
okay,
they are only trying to comply with something, and they have failed already. The company has failed by not conducting and concluding the inquiry within 3 months from the date of complaint.
Agreed.
So if she does not wish to go there, nobody can force her to go there for inquiry. But what needs assessment is whether it is in her interest or not.
Okay.
Yes.
Agreed.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do not know this network really troubled today. I do not know it was interrupting now and then.
Can I speak now?
Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to know, what could be the role of the internal complaints committee in a fully women institution like a girls' college? Of course, there are a few male members as well. But what do you think could be the possible cases arising over there?
All right. Irrespective of who is studying in the organization, internal committee has its relevance. The students studying in all women college or institution do interact with men, and sexual harassment it's a sexual harassment against women. If a woman harasses a woman, that matter also is supposed to be addressed by the internal committee.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Yeah.
Yes,
right.
yes, absolutely. However, when I mentioned workplace in the beginning, the term workplace is also very relevant in this case, because a girl studying in all women institution goes for internship in some organization. So how would that be covered? So that would be covered by this law, by this committee itself.
What if she takes her own mode of commute and then goes to the other organization? Will the travel
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. It gets covered. It does not matter. Mode of transport does not matter at all. What matters is the place where the incident takes place.
Yeah, supposing it occurs on the way while she is traveling, will that be covered under ICC?
As per the law, it does get covered. But I always say that whenever there is a threat to life and liberty, law enforcing agencies, that is police, must be called immediately. Whether it is inside institution or it is outside institution. Because that is an emergency. IC would give an opportunity of being heard to the accused. Police would act immediately. So we need to choose that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. May I speak?
Yes, please.
Actually,
You're not audible.
An administrative person actually talked very rudely to a female staff. Temporary appointment, but then she approaches ICC, but she told her grievance in verbally. not giving written complaint. So is ICC bound to act on the verbal complaint?
That
Because she is
verbal
not able to provide any kind of proof. So what is the basis that the committee will be, uh, giving a caution to the administration not to behave in a certain manner with the female staff?
question of proof comes only when the inquiry takes place. The law is set in motion as soon as complaint is made. So when an employee approaches internal committee and makes a verbal complaint, that verbal complaint has to be reduced in writing.
Yeah. Okay.
If the complainant refuses to do that, it means that she does not want to pursue the complaint before the committee.
Means since she was in a temporary appointment, so she thought that the feedback which will be given by the office about her to joining the new office, that will affect her career in future. So that is why she did not write.
See, dignity cannot be bound. If a complaint is made verbally before the internal committee and you are the member of the internal committee, that complaint, verbal complaint, must be reduced into writing. And that must be approved correct by the complainant. So that verbal complaint is converted into a written complaint, and thereafter inquiry takes place, and that is when you will look for the proof. You cannot look for the proof right at the time of registration of the complaint. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. But can something be done to warn that person that do not repeat it as a
Of course, organization has this power. Of course, our organization has this power that this is the complaint that we have received.
Yeah.
See, let me make it very clear that internal, for a moment, let us imagine that internal committee does not exist in this country. For a moment, let us consider this.
Yeah.
In that situation, should an organization act upon such complaints? Please answer my question.
No. Means in a certain manner they can handle, but for all the matters, organization will not be focused.
Ma'am, my question is very specific. Suppose I am heading an organization. There is no, suppose we are assuming this. This is a hypothetical situation. There is no law regarding internal committee in this country. For a moment, let us consider this.
Okay.
And such complaint goes to the institution. Certainly, if I have to maintain if I have to run my institution, if I have to make sure that everybody is safe, I will have to act on those complaints.
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely. So even in cases where where the complainant is not willing to pursue it, that is what I understand when you say that she was not ready to reduce it in writing.
Yeah, yes.
Did not want to pursue it. The institution can issue a notice, can issue a show cause notice that this was the complaint that was made against you. If she's there, if that complainant is still there, because if the complainant comes and makes a complaint, she has to make it into writing. Right. If she has made a verbal complaint and she's ready to reduce it into the writing, then you have a complaint. Thereafter, she may withdraw it.
Yes.
But organization can certainly issue a notice. Let's see what happens is when you issue a notice in such situations, the other party will come back and say that there is no proof and blah blah.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter. My concern is that every case must be reported first of all, and in every case that is reported, there has to be a warning. There has to be a resistance to the actions. So when we do this, when we report a case, when we make sure that the person is informed that there's a complaint against you, that makes an impact.
Sure.
That deters that person.
Yeah,
Even if that person is not punished in any manner whatsoever because there is no proof and the complainant is not ready to furnish any proof, in that case, that person will not be punished. But certainly, some action can be taken and it must be taken.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, I have what I understand from all this discussion is that even though there may be a withdrawal of the case by the victim, the head of the institution has to take the necessary action against the person who is doing all this.
No,
Isn't
no.
it?
See, this is not the case.
Ah.
What I'm saying is, if there is a provision of through conciliation as per the Act, I do not agree to this and do not appreciate this.
Yes.
Because sexual harassment cannot be resolved amicably. It demands punishment. But ironically, our law provides for conciliation. What I was trying to convey is that if we have to deter the sexual harassers, it has to be spoken. Only speaking about it is not going to help. The person must be punished. But what happens in certain cases is that the complainant is not willing to pursue it further.
Yes, and probably she withdraws also sometimes. Withdraws the complaint.
Yes, there are so many factors that are involved, and the complainant, despite having all the proof which can get the accused convicted, withdraws the complaint. I have come across such cases numerous times. So in that case, organization cannot act against that person because you cannot punish that person because there is no proof. The inquiry is not complete.
Yeah.
What I was conveying is, wherever there is a complaint, that issue must be raised with the accused in order to make sure that the person knows that everybody knows about it. Nobody can stop. Organization cannot be stopped from that.
And he will not repeat it. Yeah, repeat offender nahi rahega once he gets the warning.
The person will come back very strongly. Let me tell you, every sexual harasser, especially when the sexual harasser is a compulsive sexual harasser who has been harassing and exploiting women since years, since decades, such people will not be afraid. They will come back and hit hard. But that will deter the organization. Complaint has come to me and I am informing this to you, and this is what I'm asking you. This we can do.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I have a question. So there is a question in the chat box. So it says, why is it that sexual harassment, why is it called sexual harassment if it is hostile work environment? Shouldn't it be a poor office environment?
Okay, that's a very good question. I would repeat what I discussed earlier, that sexual harassment is not something lightning striking an individual. It's not like that. It happens gradually, and it happens. Situations, the circumstances, certain acts finally lead to sexual harassment in most of the cases. Especially when a compulsive sexual harasser is involved in the case. Let me repeat this. There are two kinds of sexual harassers. One is compulsive sexual harasser who plans things well in advance. It may take a year, or 2 or 5 years to make sure that the target is victimized by the harasser. Am I audible? Yes. So what happens, and the second kind of sexual harassers is opportunist. So whenever a person who is very seasoned, who has been doing this act since 20 years, is certainly more experienced and he knows how to handle things, and he has come across numerous people. On the other hand, opportunist sexual harasser acts on impulse. So there are two different situations altogether. So when we talk about hostile work environment, it is a hostile work environment means that it is an effort to make a woman vulnerable at workplace. When a woman becomes vulnerable, the woman loses the confidence. As one of the audience shared with me that there was an issue regarding performance at the workplace. So when performance of an individual is affected at the workplace, the job security comes at stake. The woman assumes that she may be fired any day. So that comes under the category of vulnerability. When a woman is vulnerable, she does not become vulnerable overnight. It happens gradually. So when we talk about hostile work environment, it means that it is an environment, it is an effort to make a woman vulnerable at workplace so that she does not speak about it. I have come across cases where gradually the work environment became so vulnerable that the woman lost her credibility at workplace. Whatever she said, everybody used to say that she is lying, she is cooking up. Once a woman loses credibility at workplace, who is going to believe that she is being sexually harassed? Nobody is going to believe. So this kind of harassment, which we call hostile work environment, is very relevant. We need to understand the context, and that is why I was trying to cover the fundamentals, because we need to know phishing. If I just go ahead and tell you certain examples and I give you provisions, it would be giving you fish. But what I have tried is to cover the fundamentals so that you can identify it. Hostile work environment is extremely important because that makes a woman vulnerable at workplace. And once a woman becomes vulnerable, she cannot resist. She cannot raise her voice. If she says something, it will not be believed in the organization. Moreover, by the women in the organization. And I'm sorry to say this. Women eat up the credibility of another woman at workplace more than men do. And eventually turns into victim blaming. Victim blaming is another thing. See, this needs a very comprehensive discussion. Let me tell you what is victim blaming. For example, suppose an individual is traveling in train and the pocket is picked by some thief, some pickpocket. What happens? You go back home and the family members say, पीछे के पॉकेट में तुमने क्यों रखा था, आगे के पॉकेट में रखना था वॉलेट को. So when you try to change the situation and tell the person that this is, had you done this to prevent this, that is what victim blaming is. So in the workplace, hostile work environment, victim blaming, everything is interconnected. That is why we should not get into that debate that it is a poor work environment. Basically, it is a kind of harassment. I hope that answers the question. And in case it does not, please ask me again, because this is extremely important.
Thank you so much, sir. But due to time constraints, we won't be able to take any more questions.
Okay.
So thank you for your questions. And the session has now come to an end. I would like to thank our esteemed speaker, Mr. Dibyanshu Pandey, for gracing us with his eminent presence and for giving us his valuable time to speak about something so imperative. We are grateful to you, sir. I extend our heartfelt appreciation to the audience for your active engagement and commitment to understanding this critical subject. Your presence meant a lot to us and made this session a very successful one. We also thank the director of WSDC, Professor Payal Mago, for giving us this amazing opportunity to organize this lecture. I would like to extend our thanks to our faculty for guiding us throughout, admin staff for their tech support, research scholars and the interns for making sure things run smoothly. I request you all to now turn on your cameras so that we can have a group picture. Thank you so much, everyone. There is a link that is shared. It's a feedback form. It's provided in the chat box. Please make sure to fill it out. Your feedback is very valuable to us. And the link for the updates group will be also provided in the chat box.
Thank you so much, Dibyanshu ji. It was, indeed a great lecture, and everybody were enjoying that talk, and you have given a very valuable time. I understand that your every minute is very precious. In spite of that, you accepted.
No, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Here.
No, thank you so much. It was a privilege being with you all. but I regret that there was some network issues which interrupted and.
No, sir. It was quite okay. I mean, it was not a very big problem. Only fraction of a second it happens, but it's okay, sir. Nothing more hindrance happened. So it was a great lecture. Yeah.
Thank you so
I-
much.
Sir, I am
who is the
from
audience?
IUAC. Can we approach you for this talk in our institute too? Maybe in online or offline mode?
Definitely, ma'am, and I would prefer offline because the problem that we face in online is really frustrating.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
please feel
Yeah.
free to reach out. No issues.
So I'll
I would be
email you after discussing with the superiors. Thank
sure,
you.
ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
So much
Okay.
everyone for joining this session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Stay informed, stay empowered, and let's continue to make a positive impact in our society. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Am I audible to anyone here?
Yes, ma'am.
How can I get to the feedback link?
Hello, it's given in the chat box. The feedback link
Okay,
is
I'm
given in
unable.
the chat box.
Okay.
It is mandatory to fill the feedback form because your attendance will be marked on the basis of the responses.
Ma'am, I'm unable to find that. I'm still looking, but still thank you. I will look.
I'll share it again if there's a problem.
I have copied it, so you can just click on that. Recently posted.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Ma'am, I'm not able to type anything on the chat box. Neither I'm not able to see the feedback form. Hello. Could you please send that feedback form to our WhatsApp group? Hello. Hello.
I'm so sorry, the feedback form won't be posted in the WhatsApp groups. It has been put up in the chat box. You can find it from there.
Okay. Please fill the feedback. Okay. Please fill this feedback form for attendance. Okay. What happened?